The Grand Galactic Engineering Exhibition was the most prestigious event in the known universe. Every 10 cycles, advanced civilizations gathered to showcase their latest technological achievements, competing for recognition and resources. This cycle's challenge was unprecedented. Design and build a system to stabilize a dying star, preventing it from going supernova and destroying inhabited worlds in its vicinity. The Zorkin brought their quantum manipulation fields, the Etherians their dark energy converters, and the Mechani their artificial gravity wells. Each solution more advanced than the last, each civilization confident in their superiority. Then humanity submitted their application. The reaction was immediate and unanimous. Laughter. The Galactic Council's chamber erupted in chittering, clicking, and various other alien expressions of amusement when Earth's delegation presented their credentials. Chief Engineer Sarah Chen stood before them, unfazed by their derision. The humans still use fusion power, one counselor announced, their tentacles waving in mirth. They haven't even mastered zero-point energy. Their ships still require physical propellant. Another added, their crystalline form flickering with colored lights of amusement. Sarah waited for the laughter to subside. 20 years of working with experimental reactor designs had taught her patience. We may not have mastered zero-point energy, she acknowledged, but we've been studying stars longer than some of you have been spacefaring. The chamber quieted slightly. The head counselor, a being of pure energy contained within an ornic mechanical shell, leaned forward. Engineer Chen, your species only achieved faster than light travel 3 centuries ago. Many civilizations here mastered star manipulation millennia before humans left their atmosphere. True, Sarah nodded, which is exactly why we bring a different perspective. While others developed ways to bypass the fundamental forces of nature, we had to understand them intimately. We've spent centuries learning to work with these forces rather than against them. The Council exchanged glances. The rules were clear. Any spacefaring civilization could participate, regardless of their technological level. They couldn't deny humanity's entry without violating ancient protocols. Very well, the head counselor announced. Earth may participate, but be warned. The energies involved in star stabilization are beyond anything your civilization has handled. We will not be responsible for any casualties resulting from your primitive approach. Sarah smiled, thinking of the warehouse back on Earth, where her team was already assembling their solution. Understood, counselor. We accept all risks. As she left the chamber, she received a message from her team. Project Throwback is ready for testing. The other civilizations had centuries of advanced technology to draw upon. Humanity had something different. Centuries of working with the raw, fundamental forces of nature. While others had developed ways to bypass physics, humans had learned to dance with it. The exhibition would begin in 3 standard months. 3 months to prove that sometimes the old ways weren't primitive. They were proven. 3 months to show the galaxy that understanding basic principles could trump advanced technology. Sarah's team had developed something that no other civilization would expect. They hadn't tried to create new physics or bend reality. Instead, they had looked to Earth's past, to a time when humans had to be clever rather than advanced. Their solution was elegantly simple, and that's exactly what made it revolutionary. As her shuttle descended toward Earth's atmosphere, Sarah watched the stars. Somewhere out there was a dying sun, waiting to be saved. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations would bring their reality-warping technologies to tame it. Humanity would bring something else. Understanding. Because sometimes the most powerful solutions didn't come from having the most advanced technology, but from truly understanding the problem. The warehouse in Nevada's desert sprawled across 2 square kilometers, its interior humming with activity. Sarah Chen walked past rows of equipment that would make alien civilizations scoff. No quantum manipulators or dark energy converters here. Just precisely engineered machinery based on centuries-old principles of physics. Run the simulation again, she called out to Dr. Marcus Rivera, who hunched over a holographic display. The projection showed their target, HD 459,000, 873, a dying star 30 light-years from Earth. The massive red giant pulsed ominously, its outer layers already beginning to shed. 17th time today, Marcus muttered, but his fingers were already dancing across the interface. You know, the Zorkin would just snap their tentacles and stabilize the star's quantum state. No muss, no fuss. Sarah watched as their solution deployed in the simulation. Unlike the aliens' approach of forcing new laws of physics onto the star, they were working with its natural processes. And what happens when their quantum field generator fails? She asked. No one's ever successfully maintained a quantum state modification on something as massive as a star for more than a few hours. The simulation reached its critical point. On the display, a network of satellites moved into position around the star, each one no larger than an Earth ocean-going vessel. They looked absurdly small against the backdrop of the dying sun. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their stellar physicist, joined them at the display. The latest calculations confirm it, she said, excitement evident in her voice. The magnetic confinement field will hold. It's not about brute force. It's about working with the star's natural magnetic fields. The simulation showed what the aliens would consider impossible. The satellites creating a web of reinforcing magnetic fields, working with the star's own magnetosphere to stabilize its outer layers. No reality warping technology, no fundamental forces being overridden, just precise manipulation of existing natural phenomena. They'd forgotten the basics, Sarah said, watching the simulation complete successfully. They're so focused on developing new forces that they've forgotten how to work with the ones that already exist. Their solution, dubbed Project Throwback, was elegantly simple in theory. Stars naturally maintain their stability through the interplay of gravity and magnetic fields. Their approach didn't try to impose new rules on the star. It simply reinforced the natural processes that were already there. The warehouse contained the prototype of their first satellite. It looked deceptively simple, a reinforced hull surrounding a massive superconducting magnet cooled to near absolute zero. The real innovation wasn't in the hardware. It was in the positioning and timing of the magnetic fields. Final test phase begins tomorrow, Marcus announced, shutting down the simulation. If it works here, we can begin manufacturing the full network. Sarah nodded, her hand resting on the prototype's hull. The metal was warm under her palm, a stark contrast to the supercooled interior. The aliens think we're bringing toys to a quantum mechanics fight, she said. But they're so caught up in their advanced technology that they've lost sight of something important. What's that? Yuki asked, though her smile suggested she already knew the answer. The universe already knows how to keep a star stable. It's been doing it for billions of years. We don't need to teach it new tricks. We just need to help it remember the old ones. As her team dispersed to prepare for tomorrow's tests, Sarah remained by the prototype. The aliens would bring their reality warping technology to the exhibition, expecting to dazzle everyone with their mastery over nature's laws. They didn't realize that humanity's primitive approach might be exactly what was needed. Because sometimes the most advanced solution isn't about having the newest technology. Sometimes it's about understanding the fundamental principles that have governed the universe since its beginning. And in that understanding, humanity had spent centuries developing an expertise that their more advanced counterparts had long forgotten. The observation deck of the Galactic Exhibition Station offered a panoramic view of HD 459,873. The dying star filled half the visible sky, its angry red surface roiling with plasma storms. 3 teams had already attempted their stabilization procedures. 3 teams had already failed. Sarah watched as the Zorkin's quantum manipulation field collapsed after just 6 hours, their advanced technology unable to maintain coherence against the raw power of the stellar forces. The Etherians' dark energy converters had lasted longer but ultimately proved too weak to influence the star's massive energy output. Humans, the head counselor's voice resonated through the chamber. Your attempt begins in 1 standard hour. We suggest you reconsider. The star's condition has degraded further than our initial estimates. Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus and Yuki. They had anticipated this. While other teams had been focusing on their complex technology, the human team had been studying the star's deterioration patterns. Every failed attempt had provided them with valuable data. "We're ready," Sarah replied. "Beginning deployment sequence now." Their fleet of satellites emerged from the transport ships, looking absurdly simple compared to the exotic devices the other civilizations had brought. The alien observers muttered among themselves, their various appendages and sensory organs conveying mixtures of amusement and pity. "Those are just magnetic field generators," one of the Mechani observers noted, their metallic voice tinged with disbelief. "They're using technology that's been obsolete for millennia." Sarah ignored them, focusing on the deployment. The satellites moved into position, forming a precise geometric pattern around the star's equatorial region. Each one activated its superconducting magnets, creating a web of interconnected fields that began to interact with the star's natural magnetosphere. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The alien observers began to turn away, assuming another failure. Then Yuki's voice cut through the quiet murmurs. "Field synchronization achieved. Star's magnetic field is responding exactly as predicted." On the massive display screens, data began streaming in. The star's outer layers, which had been increasingly unstable, began to show signs of regularization. The massive plasma eruptions started to follow more predictable patterns, guided by the reinforced magnetic field lines. "Impossible," one of the Zorkan scientists declared, their tentacles writhing in agitation. "You cannot stabilize a star of this mass with simple magnetic fields." Marcus looked up from his console with a slight smile. "We're not trying to control the star," he explained. "We're working with its natural processes, reinforcing what's already there. The star knows how to be stable. We're just helping it remember." Hour after hour passed. While previous attempts had shown degradation over time, the human system maintained its effectiveness. The satellite network adjusted automatically to the star's movements, their magnetic fields dancing in concert with the stellar forces rather than fighting against them. 12 hours, Yuki announced. Then 15 hours. Finally, 24 hours. Stability matrix holding at 98.7% efficiency. The observation deck had grown crowded as word spread. Representatives from every competing civilization gathered to witness what they had deemed impossible. The head counselor's energy form flickered with what might have been surprise. "How long can you maintain this?" they asked. Sarah stepped forward. "Indefinitely," she replied. "The system is self-sustaining now. We're not forcing the star to behave differently. We're supporting its natural tendency toward equilibrium. The energy cost is minimal because we're working with the star's own forces rather than against them." The alien observers began to shift their attention from the displays to the human team. Their expressions were no longer amused or pitying. There was something else in their gazes now. Recognition, understanding, perhaps even respect. As the star continued to pulse steadily, its dangerous instabilities gradually calming under the influence of the magnetic web, Sarah thought about all the centuries humanity had spent learning to work with nature's forces. While other civilizations had raced to transcend the fundamental laws of physics, humans had taken the time to truly understand them. And in that understanding, they had found not weakness, but strength. Not limitation, but possibility. The path forward wasn't always about creating new laws of physics. Sometimes it was about mastering the ones that had governed the universe since its beginning. The warning came without prelude. One moment, the observation deck was filled with discussions about the human team's surprising success. The next, Yuki's voice cut through the chamber like a knife. "Massive coronal ejection detected. Scale exceeds all previous measurements." The display screen shifted to show a massive eruption of stellar material, dwarfing anything they'd seen before. The star was fighting back, as if determined to prove that no civilization, advanced or otherwise, could truly tame its power. "All teams, evacuate immediately. the head counselor ordered, their energy form pulsing with urgency. The exhibition is terminated. But Sarah's team didn't move. They were already analyzing the data, their hands flying over their consoles. The ejection will reach critical habitation zones in 3 hours, Marcus reported. 13 inhabited worlds are in the direct path. The alien observers erupted in chaos. The Zorkan began deploying their quantum field generators again, hoping to contain the eruption. The Etherians activated their dark energy converters at maximum power. Neither had any effect on the massive wave of plasma hurtling toward populated systems. "We're not leaving," Sarah announced, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Our system can adapt. We just need to recalculate the field harmonics." The head counselor's mechanical shell turned toward her. "Your primitive technology cannot possibly contain an eruption of this magnitude. The combined might of our advanced civilizations has failed. Do not throw away your lives in futile heroics." Sarah looked at her team, saw the determination in their eyes. "With respect, counselor, you're still thinking about containment. We're thinking about redirection." She turned to her console, bringing up the magnetic field projections. "All satellites, realign to new coordinates. We're going to create a magnetic corridor." Understanding dawned on Yuki's face. "Of course. We can't stop the ejection, but we can guide it, like a river flowing between banks." The human team's satellites began to move, their formation shifting from a stabilization pattern to a new configuration. The magnetic fields reformed, creating a massive channel in space, a path for the stellar material to follow. "You'll never generate a strong enough field," one of the Mechani observers protested. "The energy requirements would be impossible if we tried to create the field ourselves," Marcus interrupted. "But we're not. We're using the star's own magnetic field as an amplifier. The same principle that let us help stabilize it can help us direct it." On the screens, the coronal ejection reached the edge of their magnetic corridor. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed like it would break through. Then, like water finding a channel, the plasma began to follow the path they'd created. "It's working," Yuki breathed. "Field integrity at 82% and holding. The ejection is following the corridor." The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the human team's primitive technology accomplished what their advanced systems could not. The massive eruption of stellar material curved away from the inhabited systems, guided by magnetic fields that worked with the star's natural forces rather than against them. "How did you know this would work?" the head counselor asked, their tone somewhere between accusation and admiration. Sarah's eyes remained fixed on her displays, making constant minor adjustments to the field strength. "Because we've spent centuries studying how stars behave naturally. You tried to impose new rules on it. We just helped it follow its existing ones in a different direction." Hours passed as the coronal ejection followed their magnetic corridor, eventually dispersing into space far from any inhabited worlds. The human team worked continuously, adjusting their fields to compensate for variations in the plasma flow. It wasn't elegant by alien standards. There were no reality warping fields or quantum manipulations, just precise engineering and deep understanding of stellar physics. When it was finally over, the observation deck was silent. The aliens who had laughed at humanity's outdated approach were now looking at the human team with new eyes. They had just witnessed something that challenged their fundamental assumptions about technology and progress. Sometimes, true innovation wasn't about having the most advanced technology. Sometimes it was about understanding the basics so well that you could use them in ways no one else had imagined. In the days following the crisis, the Galactic exhibition station became a hub of unprecedented activity. Representatives from civilizations across the galaxy arrived not to showcase their advanced technology, but to study humanity's primitive solution. The warehouse-sized chamber that had once echoed with alien laughter now hummed with serious discussions about magnetic field harmonics and stellar physics. Sarah found herself surrounded by beings she had once thought would never take humanity seriously. The Zorkan scientists, their tentacles moving in patterns that indicated deep thought, pored over the mathematical models that described their magnetic field network. The Etherians, beings of pure energy themselves, studied how the human team had worked with natural energy flows rather than trying to override them. "We have been blind," the head counselor admitted during a formal gathering of all participating civilizations. Their energy form pulsed slowly within its mechanical shell, a sign of deep contemplation. "In our race to transcend the fundamental forces of nature, we forgot the importance of understanding them." Marcus stood beside one of their satellites, explaining its relatively simple mechanisms to a group of mechani engineers. "The complexity isn't in the technology," he said, "it's in how we use it. We spent centuries studying stars because we had to. We couldn't skip past the basics with quantum manipulation or dark energy fields." A limitation that became strength, one of the mechani observed, their metallic features shifting in what might have been appreciation. Yuki had taken over another section of the chamber, where she displayed simulations showing how their magnetic field network could be adapted for other stellar phenomena. "The principles remain the same," she explained to the gathered scientists. "Work with natural processes, not against them. Enhance what's already there instead of trying to impose new rules." The implications of their success rippled through galactic society. Advanced civilizations that had long looked down on primitive approaches began to re-examine their own fundamentals. Some started incorporating human-design magnetic field technology into their own systems, finding that the combination of basic principles with advanced technology yielded better results than either approach alone. Sarah stood at the observation deck one final time, watching HG 459,873 pulse steadily within its web of magnetic fields. The star that had nearly destroyed 13 worlds now served as a testament to humanity's unique contribution to galactic science. "Your species has taught us something valuable," the head counselor said, joining her at the window. "We had forgotten that advancement doesn't always mean replacing the old with the new. Sometimes it means understanding the old so well that you can use it in new ways." "We never set out to prove anyone wrong," Sarah replied, watching their satellite network adjust automatically to the star's movements. "We just solved the problem the only way we knew how, by really understanding it first." The head counselor's energy form brightened slightly. "The Galactic Council has made a decision. We are establishing a new division dedicated to fundamental physics and engineering. We would be honored if humanity would lead it." Sarah turned away from the window, surprised. "Even though we're centuries behind you in many areas." Perhaps the counselor's mechanical shell made a gesture equivalent to a smile. "It is we who are behind in some ways. Your species has preserved knowledge that many of us have lost in our rush to advance. There is value in that perspective." As preparations began for their return to Earth, Sarah reflected on how differently things had turned out from what anyone had expected. Humanity had come to the exhibition seen as primitive, outdated, and naive. They were leaving as teachers, reminding the galaxy's most advanced civilizations that true innovation wasn't always about having the newest technology. Sometimes it was about understanding the oldest principles so well that you could see possibilities others had forgotten to imagine. In reaching for the stars, humanity hadn't tried to bend the universe to their will. Instead, they had learned to dance with it, to work with its fundamental forces rather than against them. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy that there was more than one path to advancement, that what some saw as primitive might actually be profound, that sometimes the best way forward was to first understand where you stood. The stars stretched out before them, no longer just distant lights but partners in humanity's journey. They had proven themselves not by trying to master the universe, but by learning to work with it. And in that lesson lay the promise of a future where wisdom and innovation went hand in hand, where understanding the basics was just as valuable as advancing beyond them. It was a future that humanity, with its primitive approach and deep understanding of fundamental principles, would help shape. Not bad for a species that still used fusion power and physical propellant in their ships.